All right, I will call our village board meeting to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Gust.
Here.
Trustee Jensen.
Right here.
Trustee Miller.
Present.
Trustee Otterson.
Here.
Trustee Siddick.
Here.
Trustee Wells is absent. Attorney Ferrolo.
Here.
Mayor Hooker.
Here.
And Clerk McDonald is present.
All right, would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item of business tonight is approval of the minutes of the village board meeting from February 27th. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by trustee Miller, second by trustee Jensen. Discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Gust.
Aye.
Trustee Jensen.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterson.
Aye.
Trustee Siddick.
Abstain.
Motion carries. Next, we have approval of warrants. Bills presented for payment in the amount of $258,353.96. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Jensen, second by trustee Miller. Discussion? All right, no discussion. Roll call, please.
Trustee Jensen.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterson.
Aye.
Trustee Siddick.
Aye.
Trustee Gust.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have no agenda items under special business. Do we have anyone that would wish to address the board on anything on the agenda tonight? We'll have a second opportunity after most of the business is done. Going once, going twice. All right, no one to address any agenda items. We move on to the mayor's report. In broad strokes and general terms for the benefit of the board, we have been, we collectively, staff and I, have been having discussions regarding this COVID-19 scare, event, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. We're seeing certainly a ramp up in attention and numbers and statistics. We're seeing more and more government agencies, businesses, et cetera, kind of reeling in their plans, large gatherings being canceled, sporting events being suspended, postponed, canceled. And so from the village point of view, we've had numerous discussions about successorship, if you could say it that way, if we start having issues with top-level managers, the options to work from home. All of our senior staff have that ability if necessary. Frontline personnel, the realities of shortages there could be anything from the village hall not being open as many hours, maybe not having the public coming into the village hall except for specific appointments and meetings. We have our drop box for those paying bills and the like. Certain business has to be transacted, permits and things like that, but workarounds do exist. And then, of course, our Public Works Department and the critical systems and the like. On that topic, I had a call from Mayor Cunningham. As you all know, Waukegan is our water supplier. And when we talk about our primary purposes, it's to keep the roads clear and the water running and the sewers working. If, however, our supply of water is turned off or unable to continue, we have a problem on our hands. So Mayor Cunningham wanted me to know today, he called me this afternoon, that they have had multiple strategic, he called it their SWAT team, strategic meetings with senior personnel and operating personnel. Specifically wanted me to know that they are working with neighboring communities, and specifically North Chicago, and Gurnee, because they're adjacent and have separate water systems, as well as wanting to talk to Jawa as far as sharing personnel, as North Chicago has plant operators and Jawa has plant operators. So kind of a backup, belt and suspenders kind of approach to their systems. I'm sure, Don, you're going through something similar in your world.
Yeah, the manager of the Evanston utility has called for a meeting among all the lakeshore water producers with that in mind, sharing of staff. The one concern is if Glencoe, for instance, had a fellow in their public works department who was exposed, apparently not infected, he's now been cleared to go back to work, but was exposed. Now, if he were diagnosed, anybody that came in contact with him would be quarantined. That would mean their entire public works staff is wiped out.
Can't they quarantine them at work?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's my plan.
Don't let them go home.
So exactly. Well, if I'm down to 3 healthy ones, I'm going to lock them in. But that is the plan. And so if you have to send everybody in your public works department home, you want to have an arrangement with the neighboring utilities to share people, snowplow drivers, whatever you need.
Yep. Well, thankfully, at least in the immediate future, hopefully the snow is I shouldn't say it, I won't say it.
Yeah, don't-
Spring's coming, spring's here. But hopefully that won't be a major challenge for us, but certainly the critical systems will be. And so we're all working through it. We could plan this until the cows come home and something else will happen. But I think as long as we're all talking about it, looking for alternate solutions and methods of doing what we need to do, and maybe being willing to forego some of the things that we maybe normally would do in order to continue to be able to provide the services that we need to provide. So more to come, but
I think, Mayor, we should point out that our audience here didn't get the memo about social distancing.
yeah, I notice everybody likes that side. Really, this isn't a bride and groom kind of a thing. You know, you can sit wherever. It's perfectly fine. But in all seriousness, you know, this is unprecedented. The reaction to this, whether or not the disease is going to bear out to be as bad as it's forecast to be, certainly the reaction to it is unprecedented, and we have to take it seriously. We have to take into account that there's a potential for schools to be closing. There's a potential for employers to be closing. We have, you know, personnel needs here. We have businesses that need people to function. Everybody's going to still want food. Everybody's going to still want to be able to put gas in their cars if they can travel. And, you know, that reality is probably a much bigger issue than some of the other things that are being worried about now, such as, I don't know, toilet paper. If Costco was going to run out of anything, I can think of a whole lot of things that would be more important to your survival than toilet paper. But,
You'd think that'd tell you're out.
yep, well, there's a lot of solutions. That wasn't invented till much later in civilization, so there's always other ways.
The sewer guys don't want you flushing the Sears catalog.
Well, I have a friend that's listed completely natural organic toilet paper for sale, and it's a bunch of oak leaves in a bag. So, you know, I mean, there's ways.
Well,
So-
thankfully, winter's over, so you can hook your garden hoses back up again. That's
There you go. So you got that. Yep. Oh, boy. So I think I've probably gone too far with that. Yeah. So just know that we're seriously looking at everything, and we've had great input from state, county, federal agencies, as well as other municipalities in the area. And we have some other considerations that we'll be reviewing. We all know that the Open Meetings Act requires our physical presence in order to conduct business. There's been apparently, I'll let the attorney pontificate a bit on that, but apparently there's been some legislation filed or proposed at least to allow in an emergency situation to have telephonic or teleconference type meetings to not put people at risk. But, our job is to do business in the light of day, and until we can't, I think it's going to be a kind of a tricky business unless the laws do change to allow it. But our attorney has some proposals that will be brought forward at some point here and see what we can come up with from there. I think that's enough for now. I will move on then to trustee reports, and first up, we've got Trustee Gust.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing do I got a half hour to read this, or?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Take all your
I
time.
just, we planning 10 functions here in Beach Park this summer. If you go on the website, you can read about all of them. Had a good meeting earlier this afternoon. And then along with that, this is the most important one, is next Tuesday, the Luck of the Irish Luncheon is Tuesday, March 17th at 12 o'clock, and it's going to be at Thunderhawk Golf Course. To attend, you're supposed to buy your tickets in advance at the Village Hall, which are $20. And we're gonna have a corned beef lunch. We'll have salmon, raffles, Irish music by Country Crossings. So I hope everybody bought their tickets, and I hope to see everybody there.
Go.
And that ends my report tonight.
Thank you. Moving on, Trustee Jensen.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item. Our next Finance Committee meeting is a big one. It's March 18th, and that is the one at which we will review the budget that our staff has been diligently working on preparing for the coming fiscal year. And so I'll bring my red pencil and we'll go at it.
Could you bring a green pencil in honor of the day?
No, but I have my marker.
Okay,
My
okay.
highlight. But that is the meeting that to which we invite the other trustees as well. So we can all have our say with respect to the line items, and then we'll bring it back to the board for adoption and the public hearing is required.
All right. Trustee Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Coast Guard time again. Local Forest Preserve lovers of Lions Woods, there's going to be a controlled burn in just a few weeks, so we always like to post this information on our website so people are aware and they don't panic when they see a large plume of smoke coming from Lions Woods in various places. Just part of normal maintenance, and they do this annually, I think maybe a couple times a year now. And it's to keep the invasive species factor down and promote the natural habitat. So we're happy to publicize that for them. In addition to that, the Lake Shore Trail Connectivity Committee met on February 28th with the consultant and the IDNR to review draft proposals for the trails and connectivity through the participating communities and the Illinois Beach State Park. So that project is moving forward. The Complete Count Committee, the census committee that encompasses many entities, met here at March 5th at the Beach Park Village Hall. And some of the highlights from that meeting as presented by the representative that we had, a partnership specialist from the U.S. Census Bureau. She informed us that the census is not accepting any applications after March 9th, so if you were intending and you missed it, that's over. But there is now a waiting list for people who applied, a 2 to 3 month waiting list for applicants. And the census workers will begin their outreach efforts on March 30th. And everyone should have gotten their own envelope in the mail today. I know I got mine. It has, no? Somebody didn't?
Didn't look for the mail yet.
Oh, what?
Didn't get the mail yet.
Didn't get the mail, oh. Well, it's waiting for you. And you'll see your ID is enclosed right in the middle of that letter, and it tells you that you can respond online by April 1st, and if you do not choose to do that by April 1st, then a questionnaire will come to you, the long form they used to call it. I think now it's a short form. They say that it only takes 10 minutes or less to complete, so that's something for everybody to look forward to and get done.
And if you don't have access to a computer and you don't want to go to the library,
Upstairs in our Village Hall lobby, we have a kiosk, a free kiosk for people to log on and complete their census right here. And I'm sure there's some expert in staff that if you get stuck, I haven't looked at it yet, honestly, but.
I tried logging into eBay and it wouldn't let me do it, so I
good.
think it's
Tested it?
just for census.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And the village is partnering with the Zion Benton Library to really get out and promote the census. As you know, we had a grant of $15,000 that was secured by Lisa Namatka before she departed. There's going to be streetlight banners all along Sheridan Road. If we had some left, I guess we could put them up on our banner, but we don't have those
Right.
things to hold them. But look for that sign that you're starting to see all over the place with the colorful hands sticking up in the air, and that means, don't forget to be counted. It's really important. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Trustee Otterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The item that I would like to highlight is coronavirus exempt. It is about the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, or SWALCO, textiles recycling program. We talked about it at a few meetings ago, and we signed an agreement with SWALCO, and I'm told that the receptacle is in place and ready to receive donations. It's at the Public Works facility on Glendale. It is available from 7 a.m. until 4 p.m. when the gate closes. If you're in there at 4 p.m., you may have to stay the night.
You're not supposed to go in the container, right?
No.
Okay.
But there is a list of things, new and used or unwanted worn women's, men's, children's clothing and textiles, and all fabrics will be accepted. And I'm told even if the fabrics have stains or rips, they're still welcome because they are still textiles. And the lost socks. If you have single socks that you don't have a mate to, will be also accepted in the dumpster, or in the
Finally,
receptacle
a
for
place
SWALCO.
for the lost socks.
There's now finally a place for the lost socks, so I can clean out a drawer in my bedroom of single socks, so. That is all I had.
Thank you, thank you. Trustee Siddick.
No report tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on then to the village administrator's report. Mark, what have you got for us?
All that information should be in your packet, but the village received a request from Our Lady Humility for waiver of fees related to their fundraising event that's coming up in April. So we have no authority to do that as staff, so that would require, board action to waive the fees. There's a fee for the liquor license and the special event permit for that event. So we would need a motion to authorize waive the fees for them, so.
All right, so this is not the first time we've been asked for this, and I do believe it's been granted every time it's been asked for, but I do see in the packet it's a $75 liquor license fee and a $100 special event permit fee. So do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
We have a motion by trustee Siddick.
Second.
Second by trustee Gust. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Addison?
Aye.
Trustee Siddick?
Aye.
Trustee Gust?
Aye.
Trustee Jensen?
Motion carries.
Mayor, while we're on the administrator's report, man,
Absolutely.
ask him a question about the Friday report that he sent us.
Sure.
Two items that caught my attention. One is the CMAP Housing Assistance Kickoff, and I don't know what that's about. Can you enlighten us?
Jerry, Jerry's been heading up that effort. He had the meeting, I had that error in the time, it was actually at 9:30, but I know trustee Wells was there, but I'll leave it to Jerry to go ahead and explain.
Trustee Miller and
It's working.
Trustee Miller and Trustee Wells were both at this. What it is CMAP offered, actually wasn't CMAP, it's Metro Mayor's Caucus that offered, they have a grant assistance to evaluate our current housing stock and trying to determine from people in the community as to what our housing needs may be now or in the future in the municipality. And part of this process was they did come and they interviewed the mayor and that's actually Trustee Miller before, and then we put together this panel discussion yesterday of people from the community, and Trustee Miller and Trustee Wells were there. We had our chair of the Plan Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, we had a local realtor, rental owner, we had one of the fire districts, we had the school district, we had a rental property owner, one of the bigger rental property owners in our community. We had that resident, he's also a resident, he was there. We had the township supervisor from Benton Township, so we had to try to get a pretty diverse mix of people there to be able to provide it. It was about a 2-hour discussion on what was there, and they, CMAP and Metro Mayor's Caucus combined on this project. So they had handouts with statistics and everything there, and then what they're going to do is take all of the information they gleaned from yesterday's meeting and provide it into a draft report, and then have another bigger get-together with more, that's more open to everybody to present that and then get more feedback on that before they draft it. And I think we're the second community in Lake County to take part in this. The first one is other communities throughout the Collar counties that have participated in it. I think we're the only one. Second one in Lake County.
I'll look forward to seeing that report. Sounds interesting. Did they all play nice together?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, one other item that I just want to highlight on the administrator's report, and that is, I see that the sheriff's office has been writing some more tickets, mostly traffic. And I saw in the sheriff's report, the media report, a number of traffic tickets. Well, they only report the ones where there are other violations, but which implies to me that there were a number of traffic stops along Sheridan Road, which I appreciate. The traffic is dangerous out there. Happily now, we're getting out of the dark hours of the year, so the pedestrians aren't quite as much at risk, but that's always been a concern of ours, so we appreciate that.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Could I have one more thing, Mr. Mayor, too? I just wanted to let everybody know, too, that we are hiring summer help in Public Works. We just posted that also. So if you know some young individuals might want some summer jobs, we've got 2 available, so.
Good. Okay, thank you.
He said young, so.
Yeah, so that rules me out.
qualify.
Next up, we have our consent agenda, which includes a resolution appointing the village administrator as the authorized agent for IMRF. John was in his last appointment, and Mark, did you want to add anything to that? It's pretty straightforward. Looking for a motion to appoint the village administrator.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Addison, second by trustee Siddick. Any discussion? Pretty routine. All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Addison.
Aye.
Trustee Siddick.
Aye.
Trustee Gust.
Aye.
Trustee Jensen.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
And that is resolution number 8. All right. Next up, item 10, under ordinances and resolutions. First, we have a resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Stormwater Management Commission and the Village of Beach Park. Trustee Jensen, what have you got for us?
Mayor, with great reluctance and consternation, I'd like to offer a motion to approve a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Lake County Stormwater Management Commission and the Village of Beach Park. This agreement that we are considering tonight has been a long time in the making, with a lot of effort spent by Stormwater Management with the mayor and the former administrator, Public Works Committee and Finance Committee. We have hashed this thing over and over and over and agonized over it. We're finally down to the point of yea or nay on it. We've been putting it off as long as we could. So there's my motion and explanation.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion by trustee Jensen, second by trustee Miller. Just to add, we have, Kurt is here from SMC. If there are any specific questions, he's willing to step in and dialogue with us. This is a situation for the audience's benefit, because the board is, as trustee Jensen said, intimately aware of what we're doing here. SMC, in concert with the village, applied for a grant from FEMA for a couple of properties that are in jeopardy of sliding into the ravine, a couple of houses, and stabilization of a bluff at the intersection of Bull Creek and Sheridan Road. This is an area of the Bull Creek that pretty much takes all the water, all the storm water from probably 70% or 60% of the village, funnels into this one section of creek, crosses under Sheridan Road, goes past the affected area, and then goes under the railroad tracks into the state park, and disperses out into the wetlands there. The houses in question are on Marguerite Lane. They are both feet from the bluff now, which when they were built, they were tens of feet from the bluff. The bluff has been sloughing off, and every storm it gets worse. And we actually have one family, I believe, that has moved out of the house at this point due to the concerns, and the other house is in harm's way similarly. So, I'd like to open this up for discussion, and on the board's point, what we're being asked as a village board, as our contribution here is a not to exceed amount of $135,193. That's written into the intergovernmental agreement, but there's been some provisions made for reduction in that based on actual bids received and the like, and I'm sure there are other points that the board would like to touch on. So I guess just anticipating some dialogue, Kurt, if you wanted to come up to the microphone here, I think that's probably the best plan, so we can get you on.
Well, I think everyone would be disappointed if I didn't say something, if this is the time. Like Don said, we've been talking about this for a long time. At first, I was kind of opposed to it based on some decisions that I feel were made many years ago that could have avoided a good portion of this, but I have since been able to separate my thinking from that. And actually, the main thing is that not to give you a big head or anything, Kurt, but we have had a really good relationship with SMC over the last 15 years. This will be the third or fourth project that SMC has championed and we've participated in that stretch of the Bull Creek. So I'm looking at this now. I did have a good talk with Mike Warner after we met at our meeting upstairs the last time. And there has been, some language changed in the agreement that it was gracious of SMC to change the language to give us a little greater comfort level. The not to exceed is a good thing. Potentially, we can do some work in lieu of money if that works out. But to me, the big thing is the bank stabilization that's going to take place after the homes are removed. So that this won't become a bigger problem and the next property to the east and so on and so on. And it sounds like we will have some input in the construction methods. Not ultimately the engineers will decide, but we'll have some input, and it'll be a good back and forth, I'm confident. So I plan to support the agreement just because it's needed and it's a good project. How we got here is irrelevant because we're here. So it was good of them to be able to take advantage of this cost-sharing agreement with FEMA.
Yep.
So FEMA's paying a good chunk of it, SMC's paying a good chunk, and we're paying what we see as a good chunk because we have a much smaller budget than you and FEMA.
The total estimated budget at this point is?
For the overall total construction?
Yeah. 1 point.
I think the total grant was 1.7 or 1.8. I'd have to get back to you on the total number.
Okay. It's a lot. How about that? It blew my mind when we discussed this, but the reality is there's already been hundreds of thousands of dollars put into that section of Bull Creek to correct other issues that were affecting the creek and the erosion and the like. So if we were to lose a big chunk of this bank, house or no house in the bottom of the ravine, we put all of that work in jeopardy, and that's what we're trying to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the big thing is if a portion of one of those homes were to fall off the bluff, and hopefully no one would be in them, that would be awful, but all of a sudden we would be faced with an emergency and have to get cleanup done immediately. Whereas at this point, we've put a lot of thought into it, and we're going to come up with a plan, and I think the project will be much cheaper doing it this way than it would be on an emergency basis. And on an emergency basis, we wouldn't get a cost-sharing grant from FEMA. We would just have to do what we have to do at that point. So, I mean, this is a best-case scenario, and again, our relationship with SMC has been strong. We've always, even in other areas of the village where we've done cleanup things with different grants, we've always had a good relationship. They've reimbursed us for whatever portion